I'll just go ahead and start. So if we can go ahead and just have the panelists introduce themselves. Ladies first.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nyahuma-Seck. And actually, I went to Spelman, repping my college today, but I'm really excited to be here. I'm currently the Director of Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging at Universal Music Group. I'm originally from Philadelphia, big music city, so always wanted to sort of see how I can get involved in the music space. And I'm really excited to be here.
My name is Brian Vickers. I am a proud alumna of Howard University. Super glad to be here. I currently work as the music supervisor for the in-house theatrical trailer team for Walt Disney Studios. Thanks for having me, y'all.
Nice. Roger, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself next?
Roger Scott. I'm calling from New York, originally from California, work at Republic Records doing marketing. Prior to this, I was at Atlantic Records, where I was also doing marketing. And then prior to that, I was at Warner Brother Records for about 8 years doing publicity and lifestyle marketing.
Awesome. Last but not least, our very own DJ Ben Walker. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
What's going on, everyone? I'm DJ Benjamin Walker, co-founder of Brunch to Bomb in Los Angeles, also DJing everything for Netflix, LA Confidential Magazine as well, and obviously everything Brunch to Bomb related. From Decatur,
awesome.
Georgia.
Thank you for that.
One time for the fall.
Very nice. Samaj, is your audio up and running, or you want me to continue on question one first? Gotcha. All right, so let's just go ahead and start with you guys. So anyone can start, but I'd love to know what inspired you to first really pursue a career in music. DJ Ben, you want to start? What got you into music?
I've always been a fan of music. As a child, when I first got into school, I wanted to be an on-air radio personality, but I can't rap, I can't sing, so I figured, okay, I'll play the artist that can do those things. So DJing was just right up my alley. I love the interaction from the crowd, and it's everything for me. These virtual events are cool, but I would love to see all y'all faces, especially the ones hiding behind headshots in this summit. Yes.
Next. So like I mentioned, I grew up in Philly, and it's a big music city. Some of my first concerts were with my parents as a child, going to see Gladys Knight and the Pips every summer, and I just really loved concerts. At like 12 years old, 13, I can remember every concert. I have all my ticket stubs, and at some point I was trying to figure out, how do you work in this business? And I went to school in Atlanta. I interned down there. I can talk more about the internship later, but I worked for Michael Malden, which was Jermaine Dupri's father. He managed all the artists on So So Def at the time, like Bow Wow, Da Brat, and it really introduced me to artist management and touring. And so I loved it, but I already had a job in New York lined up in corporate finance. I felt like it's just kind of what you did, majored in economics, and you kind of work in New York and Wall Street or something like that. But after a couple of years, I wasn't passionate about it. I realized that I really was interested and passionate about music, connecting people, connecting cultures, and building communities. So I reset, started off new industry, new job, took a risk, moved to LA. I went to business school at USC and decided I really want to pursue a career in the music business.
I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. And the reason that that's, I guess, kind of relevant to my story, that I currently live in LA. Like, you know, the lady just mentioned. And I think the reason that that's kind of important is we always kind of joke about, you know, people from like a lot of smaller towns. And whenever you're from somewhere that's not LA, when you come to a city like LA, you have to grind your tail off because you don't want to go back home. But born and raised down there, and my parents got me in the church choir. I got in the church choir when I was like 4 or 5, something like that. Started singing and just kind of grew in music as I got older. Loved it. Went from the performing side to, by the time I got to high school, I had been performing so much that I figured, you know, you might as well try to figure out if you can go to college and do this in college, which is what I did at Howard. But while I was at Howard, aside from performing, I also ended up getting involved, like the lady just mentioned, in internships. And my first internship was actually with Hidden Beach Recordings, which you guys probably would know because of Jill Scott. So while I was doing the performing thing, I was also doing some label stuff and getting the other side of it, which is kind of what made me move to LA in the first place was to figure out, is there a perfect world where I can get to do both things, which my job fortunately kind of lets me have a little leeway on both sides. So yeah.
Nice. Roderick, how about you? What got you into the music industry?
Similar story too, just kind of growing up, music was always in the house. Mom's always had something playing in the background, singing in the choir as well. I actually remember watching like Belly super early and just being like, yo, Hype Williams, like I want one day like direct music videos and whatnot. So a little bit different, the function I do now, but still kind of having that input with creative and helping like those visuals come to life, but more like, you know, the overall like process of it all. But yeah.
So for those of you that went to college prior to starting your career, you know, what steps did you take as a student to improve your chances of getting a job? Because like we all know that the barriers to entry for music are incredibly high. So, you know, how did you, navigate into the industry from being a student?
I'll start. I interned every summer when I was at Spelman, always in marketing, but it wasn't until my senior year during the school year that I interned for Michael Malden. And that was just like amazing experience and really opened my eyes to, like I said, the live event side of the business as well as artist management. So I also wanted to make sure that while I was at Spelman, it's a unique opportunity to be in the AUC, be around all these other students. And I really recognized that I might not have that opportunity again. And so I networked with others who also wanted to be in the industry, knowing our paths would cross again, which has been amazing to see that happen more and more. Informational interviews absolutely were what led to a lot of opportunities for me. So because I worked in finance, thinking back, I'm looking at what I was thinking and trying to get into the industry after grad school, because that was when I came to LA, didn't really know anybody. I didn't have a lot of contacts in the industry, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. So I did 4 months of like informational interviews once a week, all these USC alum, trying to figure out what I didn't want to do, which was extremely helpful along the way. And then I didn't know if they had the program when I was an undergrad, but in grad school, I actually joined Grammy U in LA, and that's a part of the Recording Academy, their college prep program. So I joined it. Shortly after I joined, they were hiring someone to work for the Grammys in that same chapter in LA. And I did a lot of research, figured out who the hiring boss was, went to a mixer, introduced myself in person, and took my shot. She was just like, we've never hired grad students. We always do undergrad, but the fact that you came and found me is like, I'm gonna find your application and give you a call tomorrow. So that was a real pivotal moment for me because I'm really still active in the Grammys to this day. I'm on a professional development committee. I've been a member. I've worked there. So it was like my first entry point, but it started from just being assertive and confident and going after what I wanted because I did not have any other entry point. So I had to let as many people know as possible who I was, what I wanted to do, and what I could do for them.
If
so
I
you
can
mentioned something really, of course. Brian, it's all you.
Well, if I can follow up on that, because there's a couple, I guess, of there's a little bit of intersection in our stories. I don't think we can really stress, and I know you guys probably hear this a lot whenever there are panels like this about the importance of internships and networking, because at the end of the day, that's really how you're going to get to whatever your next move is. Yeah, it was the exact same thing for me. Just about when I was in college, like I mentioned, I worked for a label, but also around my junior year, I ended up working also for the DC chapter of the Grammys. And as a result of that, one of my bosses ended up putting me in touch with a lot of people. So when I moved from, DC to eventually LA, I was able to make connections because it was the same organization. And yeah, that's how I met the lady as well.
That's how we knew each other.
That's how we knew each other. So I think that when you're in school, it becomes very easy to say, I know what I want to do, and this is it. Like if we were in the room right now, if this was a live event, this would probably be where we go, how many people in here are artists, or how many people are producers, or how many people, and you guys can mention that in the chat, because it's a good idea for you to start forming your village, like right now, you know, whoever your contacts are, you never know what it is that someone does that you eventually will need in the future. And that's really the good part about interning. It kind of shows you, oh, I like what they do. Maybe that's something that I should pursue, you know, in a few years, or I like what that leads to. Or you might say, oh, well, that joint's trash. I am not doing that. And I want to be the furthest away that I can be from it. But I always recommend, like, anyone who wants to get in music or really any industry, it would be a good idea to intern so that you can not only develop experience, but develop those contacts and start networking and doing whatever you can to make a name for yourself and expand your base as much as you can.
You know, to touch on that though, something that some students might, you know, kind of push back on is that they might find it difficult to even get in the room for internships. So what is your advice to all panelists? Anyone can take this. What is your advice for making your resumes attractive so that you can get in the room for internships?
I want to say for me, it was different. I had an internship in college at a local radio station, but what you can do on campus is sometimes the corporate structure, they're just a little slow. So I built something in the streets, had a street team, built groups on campus, started events on campus, because as a lot of us know, what's popping, what we hear musically in the streets is way faster than what you hear on the radio. They way behind. So a lot of times, especially even with Brunch to Bomb, it's an event we have here in Los Angeles that there's nothing like it, so we just built it ourselves. If you are trying to do something that you may not see specific in a corporate setting for you, don't be afraid to find other like-minded individuals and just build something on your own and create that lane for yourself, and then charge for it, because we know we do that Brunch to Bomb and it's worked out fantastically. So if that's a word, but yes, create.
Love that. Anybody else?
For students, I mean, the internship process can be daunting, but I think there's definitely a lot of things you can do. I wouldn't shy away from opportunities that aren't necessarily with the largest groups or the largest companies. I had a lot of small company internships in marketing because I was focused on the function of marketing, knowing that it was a transferable skill. So even if some of the large companies aren't necessarily responsive when you're submitting resumes and things, I think you should, one, make yourself really, really stand out by emphasizing some of those extracurriculars that you do. Because if you're still doing the work, you may not be getting paid for it, but while you're on campus, whether you are creating your own events or you're doing graphic design or you're leading organizations, like all of those things show the type of person you are, but also the type of skills you have. Are you trainable? And then how do you get along with others? So I wouldn't harp so much on like, maybe I don't have the strongest experience on the resume already. Like, how do I stand out? You really stand out by showing who you are, what your interests are, and your follow through. And I think you can do that on paper, but also just really don't, like I said, don't shy away from, if, you know, this record label isn't looking to hire right now, then maybe my experience isn't worth it. Like, try the smaller companies, start your own thing. I also did that too. I didn't even mention that, but right after business school, I started a company and managing events, producing events for other people. I started managing a DJ who also went to HBCU, went to FAM, DJ Artistic. So you definitely can create the opportunities, and people will come, they will see it. And it's all about you and how you sell yourself.
Yeah, also, once again, to kind of follow up on that as well, I think that we're in an era of, you know, COVID has everything weird right now, guys. It's just, that's what it is. But I'm sure a lot of the panel can relate to this. A lot of the conversations that a lot of these companies are having closed door are actually focusing on HBCUs. So there's an advantage, I think, realistically, that you guys have, because they're going to seek the talent from HBCUs more than they would in the past. And I know that it's very easy to be kind of cynical of that. And maybe I am a little cynical of it myself, but at least the willingness is there, you know, because we see it with everything that's going on with, whether it be labels or music companies or whoever speaking out about like trying to attach themselves to Black Lives Matter and everything else. There are definitely conversations being held to reach out to more HBCUs and to get more HBCU talent. So just kind of be visible as much as you can, and be ready, like have your stuff ready to go, so that so that you're easy to find. When they come seeking you, you already have all the things that you need to be visible.
Okay. So sorry for the technical difficulties. I'm Samaj Taylor. I'm 22 years old. I'm a senior communications major at Prairie View A&M University. So as we continue to talk about, getting into the doors, once you get inside the building, what are some of the responsibilities that you guys have in a day-to-day?
Well, for me, don't be afraid to work your way up. When I first started, it was kind of I don't say know your place, but it takes time. Saying Jay-Z has that new song said, don't be afraid to stack the shelves and then keep on stacking, then you're stacking for yourself. So it's a process, it takes time. And then I think someone else already alluded to it earlier, not being afraid to ask once you're side for help. If you don't know the answer, find the answer, be a problem solver. That's something in my company I always look for, people that can just get it done. I don't need you to know how to do it, but if you can give me the end result I'm looking for, fine, that's perfect. So like those will be the two main things for me, was just anything that anyone needed, I was just hand raised, ready. I got this. If I didn't know how to do it, I'll find someone that does know how to do it, and I just get it done. So people just know my worth, because knowing your worth, that's going to help you years and years and years down the line, even way long after college.
But yeah, I mean, my day-to-day, it really changes. I like to say that, my other side job is basically a firefighter. I'm putting out fires every day, right? Like as the product manager, like the marketing lead, marketing strategist for these projects, I'm usually like the first line of like offense when something happens. So any problem, it's like, we need help. We don't know the rest of the building the way that you do. So help us get to the answers, on what we need to get done. So that call could come at 6 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, like it did last night. So this is about always just kind of staying on your toes, like having receipts. Basically, I control what happens when after the music gets turned in. So once A&R does what they have to do, it's up to me to figure out what the timeline is and what we're going to do with it, right? Like how do we help amplify that to our partners, and also just to the audience, right? Like marketing at the end of the day is how do you make an emotional connection with somebody. So making sure I'm preparing and creating the right kind of tools that they need in order to get their job done and talk to people they talk to in their very like specific like world. So a lot of that definitely comes with like being able to like juggle multiple loads, right? Because I'm not just working on one project. I got an active 13 artists that I'm working on, each coming out with various, projects, singles, remixes, albums, EPs, whatever, music videos. So it's constantly figuring out, which one needs the most attention, which can kind of wait to the back burner, but also, treating each project like, with the specialty and like the intimacy that they would expect, right? Because at the end of the day, it is their dreams. I'm just here to kind of help like amplify like those dreams. So it definitely changes day by day. Friday is the day that the releases come out. So that's the day I'm kind of getting a breath, but not really, because there's always problems when things go live at the DSPs. But yeah, it changes all the time.
Any of you guys can follow up?
I'll jump in. So my day-to-day responsibilities, they kind of vary, which I love. But basically in the diversity inclusion world, we are the central function. We're advisors, we're consultants. So for some of the things that I'm working on, our employee resource groups, those are our volunteer employee-led sort of community groups where we want those employees across all of our business units to build community, to network with each other. It's an opportunity to also show your leadership skills. So I manage those employee resource groups. So we have like 9 chapters in New York, LA, Nashville. Some of those examples are the Women's Network, Black Employee Resource Group, like ours is called Black Label. We have one for our Asian American Pacific Islanders, our LGBTQ plus community, as well as our Latinx Hispanic community. So those are some of the groups that I manage as far as their initiatives, their communications, their brand identity. We partner really closely with our social media teams to highlight our employees. And then I work on a lot of sort of campaigns throughout the year. So right now voting is a big deal. So we have voting campaigns. We are looking into launching mentorship programs. There's ways that we use those groups as focus groups for our film and TV departments. Like how can they get early screeners, give feedback, surveys? How do we tap into using our employees to really sort of affect our business objectives is what my goal is. And then I liaise with all of our labels. So shout out to Rod, he's on Republic, one of our labels. And but we partner and we consult with them. So if they have diversity initiatives for their employees, whether it's a speaker series or they want to conduct an employee survey, we work with them. We bring in experts that can help train and like bias training or microaggressions, things like that. We really want to enhance and increase the employee experience as much as we can. And so we also are right in the middle of Latinx and Hispanic Heritage Month right now. So our team is focusing on a panel event with an artist, social media features as well, and launching our latest employee resource group.
Well, I know you guys explore like the different realms of the music industry. What would you guys say are the top 3 skills that you would prefer people to have if they worked, you know, in this industry?
I could start with that. As I think number 1 is just like your hustle, is the go-getter attitude, being flexible and adaptable and resourceful, because it's just not always easy and you have to find a way to get that end result, like DJ Benjamin Walker said. 2 is heart, looking for people to be bold, ambitious, dependable, and have integrity, because people need to really trust you in the industry. And 3 is just to be smart, like know how to navigate different cultures, different environments, be intuitive, so you don't always need direction. We look for people that are really assertive in taking the initiative. And I think those 3 just at the core of who you are will help you stand out and be successful.
Yeah, there's a old church expression, I guess, that says, blessed are the flexible, because they'll never get bent out of shape. And I think that any gig that you get, you know, like the lady just mentioned, it's the exact same situation. Like, you're gonna be in situations sometimes where you might realistically feel like this is not it, this is not me. Meaning it's stuff that you don't want to do, you know, the grunt work, you know. But I know, like DJ Benjamin Walker mentioned, like a lot of those internships and a lot of gigs, they'll start you out doing certain things that you might not necessarily want to do, but part of it is just earning the trust of your team and, you know, and just building a name for yourself. But I think that the key is to do your best and whatever it is that you do, man. I've had internships where, you know, I was working under a producer at one point, and, you know, my gig was to just go get food late at night and sweep the bathrooms. And, you know, he had child acts, so the bathrooms would be gross. And, you know, sometimes you sit there and you have those come to Jesus moments like, yo, I got 2 degrees. Why am I sweeping the bathroom, dog? But you have to have a sense of humility about yourself to know that that's not what you're always going to be doing. You will push forward, you will move ahead. And when you finally get that opportunity to do something more, you kill it, you know that you're capable. That's very big.
I would say plan. A lot of us always say, you know, this is what I want to do, but then it's like, okay, what are you planning to do to get there? One thing, like, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, as a DJ, working for myself. My manager is also my business partner at Brunch to Bomb, and I personally wasn't even a fan of work sessions when we first started. Never did them, never had them. I was like, I just do things on my own. But when we started getting some success, you have to be ready for levels 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, a lot of us always ask for God to send us the blessings, but you know, you be ready when they come, because a lot of time, most of the times, when you get that success comes a lot more work, and you need to plan for it and be ready for it. Right now we're in a pandemic, but we still meet constantly preparing for 2021 or whenever events start again for us. So just be ready, and then just be ready. Just be ready and have that plan, that blueprint, so you can just kind of know where you're headed for all your levels of success.
I'm just going to I was just going to throw in too, just be flexible, right? Yeah, just be flexible. I mean, you never know where this road is going to take you. There's going to be a bunch of maybe turns and bumps and whatever, but as long as your vision, I think, is intact and where you're trying to go, and you can keep moving the goalpost, I think, towards that, I think you're going to have, like, you know, a good outcome from it. But yeah, it's easy to get distracted. Things happen all the time. They don't call it, you know, music chairs for nothing, right? Things are always shifting about. So more important to how do you keep your brand, I think, the same amidst of all these changes. And also, again, just keeping in contact with those along the way. So fellow assistants, fellow interns, you're going to see those people at some point, again, along the way. So at least as your name and your reputation, I think, goes, you know, you're going to be fine whatever happens in that journey.
That's interesting. Well, when you get to a point where you have attained this success, how do you keep a level head?
I just go, I mean, for me, I'm not the artist, right? Like, in the day, it's their dream, right? I feel like I'm just really a steward, really helping out other people, like, accomplish and getting out their dreams, whatever, right? And as much as we want to, like, sit on a success, there's, you know, a bunch of other acts which don't have that same amount of success. So, you know, it's great. You know, you don't want to celebrate the wins too much. Of course, you know, you want to give yourself a pat on the back here and there, but there's always, like, work to be done in that regard. So, you know, you take the insight you learn from those successful campaigns and how are you going to apply it to the ones that just need a little bit more to, like, you know, keep moving along the way.
Agreed, 1,000%. I like I said, I think that the best method is to always approach what you do with the level of humility. I can't stress that enough. Like, I think for the most part, everyone here in one way or another has to work in a collaborative capacity. You know, I'm the same way. Like, working as a music supervisor, I have to collaborate with my editors and with, you know, composers that we work with. So you have to have a sense of, you know, of collaborative spirit about yourself. Like, it becomes very easy to want to be the face or want to get all of the credit or whatever the case may be. But, you know, at the end of the day, it takes a team, no matter what your job is. Everyone here relies on multiple people in order to get things done. So you have to always remember that, and just, yeah, like you said in the question, don't let it go to your head. And like, that's something that you can control. And yeah, you have to just honestly work toward that on a regular.
And just a question for me, which really goes off of Samaj's question. You know, I know it's really easy, you know, just to say, like, you don't let success go to your head, but have you guys, especially working in the music industry, have you worked with individuals who you've seen, you know, the success, it literally does inflate their ego and it becomes difficult to work around them? Have you seen that happen? And do you think that type of attitude takes you farther, or do you think that more hinders your ability to move up the ladder, especially as an African American?
Can I follow up to that? Sure.
Of course.
I don't think that you can't not run into that. Like, we all know that there is a level of, you know, some people who, hey man, you're smelling yourself. And sometimes it's people that have been doing it for 10, 20 years. Sometimes it's people that just got here. But regardless as to how they act and what they do, that shouldn't change how you respond and what it is that you do. Like, honestly, all it takes is one person to shift an entire paradigm. It really is that simple. So if it's something that you are doing to counteract that, then that's just what it is. I don't necessarily, and it's so tricky because if you're an artist, to my artists and producers and all my creatives, yes, you should be confident in your work. You should believe in your work. You should believe, if you're a rapper, you should believe that you are the best rapper out there. If you are a singer, you're the best singer, like whatever the case may be. That is not to say that you should put yourself at a point where you're looking down on others, or you're not wanting to work with others, or you're not wanting to collaborate. Like I said, like it still takes a village, no matter who it is.
I mean, I would say, yes, in my field, it for sure, as a DJ and running an event, as a DJ, there's been times where I've DJed for major clients and they'll just be like, hey, thank you just for being on time. I haven't even played a song yet, and I'm already winning just because I showed up on time. Hey, thank you for bringing your records and your needles. Oh, okay. Like, really, there's other DJs that don't show up bringing their equipment. As a person who's DJ clubs, nightclubs, your non-humbleness could be costing you bad. I've seen, I'm not gonna say names of artists, but I've seen promoters talk about hey, should we book XYZ? They want 10 grand. They'll say, oh, but they're not gonna show up till 1:30, or they're not gonna talk on the mic, or they're gonna want 50 bottles. Are they really worth 50 bottles of Ace of Spades or something like that? No. So, nah, it's cool. We'll just go get this person. It on every level, like I said, it really works to just humble yourself. And I will say, when you can be a boss, be a boss. But you have to just know who you are. When I DJ Beyonce's homecoming event for Netflix, that's some boss stuff. But at the same time, she shows up on time. She does what she has to do. Everything she agreed to, she does it. She's not saying like, oh, well, I'm Beyonce, I'm gonna be an hour and a half late. No, you have paying fans, customers, clients, Netflix, who this is scheduled from 10 to 2, and there's a staff, a DJ, a film crew that were waiting on that. So like I said, all the smallest things from being on time can go a big way. So also, you can be costing yourself major, major money for just thinking you're bigger than what you really are. And nobody wants to lose the bag. I would think not.
Well, as a student like myself, I know we've been discussing networking, and, I've heard time and time again of, what you can do for other people. And also, as a young person, we always share those jokes of like, can you listen to my mixtape? Can you do this? What are some good and bad ways of networking that you guys recommend?
I got a funny story about that one. I just want to jump in real quick. So it can go two ways. When I first started DJing, there was an artist who did always hit me up about playing his music. And I was like, nah, I'm cool. Take a listen. Because I didn't listen to music. I just thought, this dude's mad thirsty. This guy turned out to be Neo. That's my fault. I could be Neo's DJ right now. But I just thought, he's just bugging me. I blew that completely. There's not for me as a DJ, I get hit up all the time about it. I'm not gonna say there's a right and wrong way to do it, because like I said, that persistency does pay off. In that one case, it didn't pay off for me, but I'm sure Neo went to other people with that same hunger, and you see him now. He's Neo. So I'm not gonna say there's an exact way to do it, but I will say, you have you do have to shoot or shoot. So I will say that if I had to say something, you have to somewhat be persistent. It's not to come to you. That's what I would say. Shooters do shoot. If you feel a chance to shoot your shot, go ahead and do it.
I'll jump in. I would say, on one hand, you definitely should, like we mentioned before, you should network with your peers, people that have similar interests as you right now, because you will run into them later. You could grow with them. You can build your squad now. Build it with people who have different skills from you so that you can be complementary to each other. But when it comes to networking with others, whether you're on the artist side or on the business side, research really does matter. Like, research the people, research the actual jobs that you're saying you want to do, research the process of how do you get there, because a lot of people don't do that, and it backfires on them later. You want to target people to meet and approach them with relevant information about what you're talking about. Some people say, I want to work in one space, but their whole conversation is about something completely opposite. So that person that you're trying to network with or talk to is like, well, are you focused? What do you really want to do? So you really want to hone in on what is it you want to do, or what do you want to get from this person, this conversation, and research always helps. I think for students, access is unparalleled. As a grad student, 4 months of informational interviews, because people won't turn you down as a student. They'll open a door. There's no threat to their job to talk to you. It makes people feel good about giving back. Take advantage of being a student and say, I want to learn from you, or I want to offer you a service, or how can I help you? I think we want to see showing drive and passion, and people can see their true integrity in that. So I would say definitely shoot every shot you can, but be prepared, because people talk and they'll remember if you weren't prepared.
Yeah, I would say definitely, shooting your shot, right? Take the opportunity when you see it, but also just making sure it's an educated shot, right? You want to make sure that the shot that you're taking is not off key. If that makes any sense, whatever. Damn, I just had a quote I was going to put out there, but I completely forgot it. But yeah, you know what I mean? It's a lot about adding value. It's not always about what can you do for me? It's how can I help you out? How can I assist into, your normal workload, or, even just your spheres of just contacts and things you can use to accomplish some of the goals that you have. So I think really finding out what that person does, what exactly you need from them, I think, and really being specific, on your intent when you're walking into a relationship like that. Because some of these people sometimes just don't have a lot of time for a lot of back and forth and a lot of guessing games. So if you can come in, specifically with what you want and what you can also offer and add value with, usually you'll get someone's, attention that way. That's some interesting bait for people that they'll usually take.
And lastly, I think it's always a good idea when it comes to networking, play your strengths. I think that usually the best networking comes when you're being yourself. I know that there are books written and there are videos how to successfully network and da da da. And at the end of the day, it's just you being yourself and you approaching someone like they're a normal person and y'all talking and figuring out what it is that you have in common, etc. But never lose the human element of networking. And what that means is like, everyone, they're just people. At the end of the day, it's just people. I don't care if you're talking to a fellow student, if you're talking to the president of your university, or if you're talking to a CEO of a major label or whatever the job is, they're just people. So always remember that and approach them as such. Don't think that, you have to go outside of your own personality, of your own skill set in order to meet these people where you have common ground. So yeah, most of the best networking that I've done literally has been around sports. Big sports guy. And more often than not, me asking a simple, hey, did you see the game last night? I've made a ton of relationships like that. I don't recommend that for everyone, but like I said, play your strengths.
Wow. Well, Nalady, I want to come to you and ask, as a woman and more specifically a woman of color, do you find it's harder than others, trying to make it in the music industry?
I definitely think there are some unique challenges. Excuse me. There are challenges to being a woman, there are challenges to being Black, and then the combination for sure. I think that, I've been taught this since I was born though. Like you always want to still show up, show out. You want to show that you are talented or you're the best in the room or you're the smartest in the room. And so I think that's instilled in me as far as just having the confidence to know that I belong here. There are rooms where people may not think that, and you have to sort of ignore that and prove them wrong. Data doesn't lie, numbers don't lie. So really focusing on like results when I'm going into rooms or when I'm applying to grad school or any of those things where I was thinking or questioning, like, is this for me? Do I belong here? I knew that everything would speak for itself. Like my profile speaks for itself. So don't get distracted by any of those little voices that might make you think or question. But I definitely think that at some point, there's a level of respect that you have to fight harder to get. And I see it as in the business side of things. I see it, like I said years ago when I started managing a DJ, most people didn't expect the DJ's manager to be a woman. So that was always something. You're on emails and they're like, thanks, dude. I'm like, actually, I'm a girl. And so like things like that, they happen. But it doesn't affect me. It didn't affect me then. It doesn't affect me now. But I am cognizant of it. And I also think it's sort of our jobs. It's a heavy burden. It's a heavy burden in diversity, period. But it's a heavy burden to also be that intersection and then have to educate others on it. So I don't want people to think that whether they feel opposite or they feel like I don't belong or whatever that is, that they can treat me differently or they can say that. Like I stop people right in their tracks when I see that thing happening. So it's something that you just have to be aware of, but I don't want it to redirect like who I am when I show up or how I treat other people or how I talk to other people.
Yeah, well, to the men on the panel, have any of y'all faced any adversity and how did you guys navigate that?
Well, for me, my business manager's Adrienne Reed, my manager, and she's my co-founder of Brunch, and she's a Black woman. And there are definitely times we'll be in rooms and they'll almost treat her like she's invisible. She'll have a great idea and they'll be like, yeah, cool, okay, Ben, so what do you think? And it's like, no, that's her idea. You know what I'm saying? For me, from a business, from just growing up as a DJ, Black women have been everything. They make up a majority of Brunch to Bomb. Looks like they're making up a majority of guests in this summit here. So it has been fantastic having a counterpart who is a Black woman to tell me how they feel. I'm for sure don't act like I know more than I do. If I see something like this, I'll lean over. I think I'm a great DJ, but I have no problem asking Adrian, hey, what do you think about this? How should we navigate next month's brunch? I'll probably say, and it hasn't happened yet, but one of our best brunches ever will probably be one of our girlfriend-themed brunches, which I would have never thought. I thought it's all about movies, but apparently Adrian told me, nah, Tracy Ellis Ross is it, then, period. And I was like, oh, okay, well, let me just shut up. I saw the comments on Instagram. Apparently Tracy is killing it. My fault. So, yes, as far as challenges for me, nah, I love them. I love the Black woman. But I definitely see the struggle that happens as the lady, if I said her name right.
That lady.
Okay, gotcha. In the business world can come. And I'm at a point now where it's their loss, because a lot of things that my business partner has to say, it's brilliance. So, yeah.
I think a challenge on my side has sometimes been not just getting opportunity, but also like equity, right? Like being a voice in the room and not just being the token one when you need someone to show up because you're a Black artist, and then you realize that the entire staff that's signing them or is around is all white, whatever, you know what I mean? And so it's definitely put a battery in my back of like asking what I need, you know what I'm saying, moving forward in current positions or even ones that prior to, right? Like never be afraid. You're gonna be the own CEO of your own career, right? So going into there and being like, this is what I'm worth, this is what I need from it. And then starting at a high point to figure out what that comfortable point you're gonna need to get, make yourself feel comfortable from that. But I think that's been a challenge, and it's still, I think, gonna be one until, you know, we're actually in those seats or having like those avenues where, you know, we have that ownership for it. But you know, the system wasn't necessarily made for us, right? Like, so you got to figure out how you can exploit the weaknesses within it, and also, again, realizing the opportunity that's there. So that's an ongoing thing that, you know, I don't have an immediate answer for it, but I know asserting yourself into it definitely makes it a little bit easier.
They said everything I would have said.
Well, you guys, working in this music industry, has it changed your perspective on music and artistry, separate from being a consumer?
I mean, not really. I guess now there's things like nothing really surprises me as far as, I think initially the amount of people or, you know, like processes or jobs that exist to make one thing happen, like the average consumer just doesn't know that, understand it, how those pieces fit together. But I think over the years, I've seen so many different sides of it. I mean, I spent 5 years at Staples Center at LA Live, and I mean, just the massive things and meetings that go into whether it's a festival or a one-day event or 1 hour. There's just a lot of work that's been put in. And I think I have a lot of respect for everyone behind the scenes. And as a consumer, I only saw a little bit of that, but I've been seeing it for a while now. So now it's just like, of course it would be 20 people on this call when I thought I was talking to one, of course.
Yeah, if I can piggyback on that a little bit, I agree completely. Like, yeah, stuff doesn't, I guess, surprise you as much when you kind of keep up with the trades and you see, you know, what's going on within the industry as you would any other industry. But for me, I always try to approach it with a fan first mentality. Whenever I listen to music, especially new stuff, my goal, at least the goal, is to try to listen to it as I would as like, you know, 11 or 12-year-old with a Walkman, you know, and I'm just hearing something for the first time, or if I'm in a music store and I'm just hearing it, because you want to still be a fan. Like, even when we look at musical from a critical standpoint and we analyze it from these, like, you know, intellectual whatevers, like, you still want to be a fan of it, and you can't let that fanhood die, or else the industry will make you bitter in a hurry. Like, you'll become very bitter of everything, and no one gains anything from, you know, another bitter person running around in the industry.
Yeah, and I just, you know, I think really early I had the disillusion that, end of the day, like, it is the business of music, right? Like, it's not about like who's the most talented always, not the person that has the most connections. It's the person that wants it the most and also is working and promoting it enough to get to a certain point. And I think sometimes you got to leave even your own expectations at the door and kind of just follow where the trends are sending you, right? Like we did a survey, the average hip hop fan is like a 14-year-old living in Minnesota, right? So, you know, as much as we love it and it's definitely part of our culture and what we started off with, you kind of lose that when you start playing the pop game, right? So, with that, there's a great opportunity, right? Like, you know, there's so many different segments that you can like cut up and also figure out how to talk to and find the right artists to talk to those communities. But you do realize very quickly that it's not necessarily about even just personal taste, right? It's what's actually moving, what's connecting with people, where is the data and the insights leading to you, and kind of trusting your gut to try to open up new opportunities for what's there. So that's at least helped, you know, in not getting, you know, too disillusioned with it, but also just realizing, like, again, like, much as I want something to work, like what's going to work is what's actually working. You know what I mean? And what we do is, I think, a reflection off of what is actually working.
Well, guys, this is my final question before the Q&A portion. If you guys could leave the audience with one piece of advice, what would you say?
Don't give up. Don't get discouraged by the things that happen along the way. Your path might not be a straight line. Mine definitely wasn't. It won't be after this. So it's okay if you do make those plans and they don't work out, because things happen the way they're supposed to. So I would just say continue to hone your skills, build your contacts, build your network, and be ready for opportunities, but also be ready when they don't work out the way you planned. And focus also, lastly, I'll say, on your sort of your mental state, your mental health, to be the best you, to show up and be your authentic self, because it's an environment that you can't really control. Every week or every month, there's always something new, something different. And you have to still be that sort of foundation and that force and that grounding moment, whether it's on a team or for yourself or even for your family. So I just think the industry is very unique in the way where it does affect a lot of people in their mental capacity. And as you're going along this path and trying to be successful and trying to make it, remember to also focus on what you need to be happy and sustain that.
For me, I would say be open to what she was saying, like be open to other opportunities instead of just being stuck to your path. When I first started in the game, like probably most people here, I love hip hop and R&B. That's what I wanted to play. That's part as I want to DJ at. But some great advice that I got maybe 10 years ago from DJ D Nice, who's blown all the way up during this pandemic, is that you have to like be open to play other platforms. So now, like when I first started Netflix, I was playing mostly urban events, but then I DJ'd a party for Narcos, spent hours on hours learning everything I could, from Spanish to reggaeton, which I've become a major fan of, to everything. And then just you play the Ariana Grande, the Taylor Swift. And even though that like a Taylor Swift may not be my exact something I play every day, playing all types of music has allowed me to DJ events like the Emmys for Netflix the last 2 years. Hopefully get to a point where I can play, like say the Oscars. I've always told people, like, I want to DJ the Rock Nation brunch. Jay-Z's not the only artist on Rock Nation. There are other, they're not all rappers. So you have to just be open-minded to just, you know, stick to like your field. But I would just say, just be prepared and open-minded to try other avenues to get to where you want in the end game.
Yeah, that's great stuff, because that's very similar to my job as well, where you can't just listen to one or two things. You know, you can't just, like, I grew up listening to, you know, gospel and R&B and jazz, but as I got older, I knew I had to expand that to rock or to, you know, folk, or, you know, whatever the case may be, because now all of those things are important in what I do now. So they're absolutely correct. Don't limit yourself. And I can't stress enough to protect your peace, you know, as Black folk, man. Like, I know that the world is changing. A lot of this stuff we've seen before, and a lot of it isn't new. But you have to do what it is that you can do to preserve your peace, man. Because when you get out there in the world, you have to know who you are, and you have to be confident in who you are, because you're gonna meet some challenges like everyone's mentioned, whether it be microaggressions or stuff on a bigger level. You have to know who you are. So be confident in that. The jobs will be there, but just know that you are needed, you're important, you're special, you offer. And I know that there's this narrative like, oh, if you go to HBCU, you might not. No, you're every bit as talented, as capable as everyone that you're going to be working against and competing against, or whatever the case may be, working with or competing against. So just know that those things are relevant. And yes, whatever it is that you bring to the table is something unique and special.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go take back from the Magic School Bus, but right, like take chances, make mistakes, get messy, right? Like get out there, be flexible. When you see insights or take L's, take setbacks as like launching points and things you can kind of learn from, right? There is a lesson to be learned even within those failures. Embrace that, but also realize again it's the opportunity to grow once you're hit with those obstacles. It's really going to help you, I think, in the long term. And again, just kind of staying focused on what the long-term goal is versus like what these short gains are, right? Not looking in the weeds, but seeing what the bigger picture is will definitely help you out.
All right, guys. Well, now let's open it up to questions from the audience. So we have one question for Brian, and it says, hold on, from the outside looking in, it seems like there aren't a lot of Black music supervisors in the TV and film world, i.e. Insecure, The Last Dance, etc. So what type of experience do you think is essential for someone to break into the music supervision world?
Man, Maya, you're absolutely correct. There aren't a lot of Black music supervisors working on some of the Blackest projects. Like no matter what the project is, whatever you name, whether it be something something like an Insecure or across the board, there aren't a lot of Black music supervisors, but it's not impossible because there are some. And we're still, we're building a community. Fortunately, just like anything else, it is a community, and we're growing and we're trying to keep it tight. But I think that when we talk about experience, and just for some of those who might not be as familiar with the job of a music supervisor is to both find music to fit the scenes that play in, whether it be shows, movies, sometimes it's commercials. In my case, it's film trailers. So you're partly doing that, and you're partly doing music clearance. You're working on getting the licenses for these materials. So I think those two things are important. I think that, like I said, part of it is listening to a ton of different things across the board. And when I say a ton of different things, I don't mean, oh man, I listen to just this pop star and this pop star. I mean, you should go back and listen to stuff from the 60s, the 50s, the 70s, the 80s, all different genres. Learn as much as you can about those things, because it's not just playlists making, it's actually collaborating with people. And also watch a lot of movies, a lot of different movies, watch good movies, watch movies that people say are a little bit, trash or whatever. But I think it's something that you can learn from all of that. And once again, it's going to keep coming back to networking. Reach out to labels, reach out to film and TV departments at these labels, reach out to music supervisors who work on some of the shows that you like and are familiar with. So yeah.
I have a question from Sade Blair. She says she's currently a project manager for Def Jam, working on marketing and promoting artists during these virtual times. But as an introvert and someone who's just starting out, she knows that your network is your net worth. So how does she keep those connections with her for when she graduates so she can stay on that music entertainment industry path?
I'm not in the say industry, label industry like some of my colleagues here, but I don't know, one way you can do it is like I said, when you reach out to them, to the lady's point, do your research. If, for example, if someone just reach out to me, like Roger earlier, just, hey, play your music, this is how I represent artists, play it. That's not gonna work. But someone message me and says, hey, I see you do Brunch Two Bombs virtually on IG Live, I watch them, you do great R&B sets, here's this artist I have that's great R&B, I think it'll be fire, maybe begin your set as like a warm-up song. I'd probably be inclined to listen to that. And then, especially with social media, just keep those connections, keep following that person, talk to that person, even if it's something you're not involved in. There's a lot of artists, I know Snow Allegra's one. I remember I was trying to become her DJ a couple years back. Even though I wasn't her DJ, I still congratulate her on any and everything. If I see her book a fashion show, oh, that's dope. Oh, you know what I mean? If someone's getting married, congratulations, a baby. Just, you know, make it personal, almost like they're your friend. And that's something that even if they can't necessarily help you out, they always, if something comes up available through someone else, they may say, hey, I know someone who's actually looking for that job, and they'll throw you that lob because, you know, you guys have built that relationship. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, exactly what you're saying. You know, like just make sure, you know, follow them afterwards once you leave your tenure there on like the socials and whatnot. And, you know, reach out when it's not even just work related, right? Like you're still trying to forge a relationship. So whether there's a few likes here or there, maybe it's suggestions, something I just listened to, I thought you might enjoy as well. Hey, I see you're working on this. You did a great campaign over here. You know, offering just kind of more insight, you know, definitely helps out. I think forging those initial relationships, you know, everyone likes compliments too, right? So you start giving a little bit of praise here and there about something, people are going to be inclined to not be assholes. I think we'll like respond to that. But yeah, it's really, I think, just taking it out of the normal work relationship here and there and really try to get to understand what motivates, what moves that person, like what inspires them, right? And then when an opportunity does pop up later on, trying to be that person in their mind when they're thinking, oh, I know this person's also looking for something, like let me forward this to them. It may be of some use to them. So yeah, just keeping that interpersonal part, I think, alive. Yeah, you know, it definitely takes a little bit. You know, I'm not the most extrovert person as it is myself too, but that's a skill set I had to learn along the way, and just, you know, coming forward with your authentic self, and then, you know, either folks are going to resonate with that or not. But you tried it, you got your insight from there, you can move on if that's not the right tree you should be barking up.
That just about wraps up this panel, guys. Thank you so much for contributing all that amazing insight. If you guys can just drop your contact info, maybe your social into the chat, so students in the audience know how to reach you, that would be dope.